Hello, I think we're live now. I don't know if anybody's logged in just yet or not. Don't think so because just jumped on. Let me get all set up here so I can answer the chats and things, and we'll get going as soon as some people join. If this is your first time here, I do this live broadcast just about every Thursday night. It kind of depends on how life's going, but for the most part, every Thursday night at 7 o'clock Central Time. And there's not really a topic planned for this. It is just a kind of ask me anything kind of series. So just come in here, ask your questions, leave your comments. I respond to the comments, get lots of feedback from the other people in the comments section generally. So it's a good place to get your questions answered if you have questions about raising rabbits, raising quail, some gardening questions, any of those kinds of things. So let me jump in here because we got some people jumping in. Luke, quit spamming us. We see you. Hello. And Tiffany DeMoss is here. Hello. Doing well. How are you? Who else we got here? Samuel and Scarlett Monte. I think I got that right. Hello. Curvin, good night to you. Good evening. Robin, hello to you. Douglas, hello. Syed, hey, it has been a little while since you've been here. I remember your name because it was hard for me to pronounce, but you said I got it right. So glad to have you back. Thanks for joining us. Wesley is here. Chris Arnold, Antonio Garcia, hello to you guys. My Tiny Farm and Me has a question, our first question. How do you know if it's a successful rabbit breeding? Well, you can pretty much count. If the buck does a fall off, and if you know what a fall off is, hopefully, you know, he mounts the doe, he does his thing, and then he falls over. That generally is going to be a successful breeding. You don't know for sure until it comes time to kindle, because any number of things can happen between now and then. It could be false pregnancy for the doe. She may not be receptive. The buck could be sterile because of the heat, you know, any number of things. So there's no real way to guarantee it. You can palpate a doe after about 14, 15 days. Actually, probably after about 10 days, but closer to 14 is going to be a lot easier. But that's incredibly hard to do. Very hard for me to explain. Basically, you just put your hand underneath their belly. You push up towards kind of their backbone. You feel around for babies, but it's really, really hard to do. So really 90% of the time, probably, if you have a successful fall off, it's a successful breeding. Plan on it. Be ready for baby rabbits. Hopefully that answers that. Quail Noob, hello to you. Antonio Garcia, hello. Jimmy is here from Salem, Missouri. Another good Missouri guy, I guess. All right. Chad, good evening to you. I'm doing well. How are you? Antonio, Kai, what is that? Rainier? Hopefully I got that right. Allison Beard says, I got a new buck about 6 weeks ago and bred him to 4 females, 3 of them new breeders, and only 1 ended up pregnant with only 2 babies. Should I be worried? He is good. Well, Allison, it depends a little bit on kind of where you're located, what the temperature is outside. If it's above like 85, 90 degrees and it's that way for a long time, it's probably just temperature related. Bucks will tend to go, not always, but it can happen. It's not uncommon at all. They'll go sterile for a short time during the heat. So if, you know, it sounds like your buck's doing okay. One of them had babies anyway. He just may not be able to produce enough, well, don't want to say anything that's going to get me banned from YouTube, or not banned, I shouldn't say, but marked as adult content or anything. So you kind of get where I'm going with that, hopefully. That makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense, I should say it that way. So hope that answers that question for you. I wouldn't worry about it too much. Give him some more chances, see how he does, and he's probably going to be just fine. All right, where are we at here? Kervin says, I've had 2 litters in the last few days, total 14 kits. Thank you for all the awesome videos. Well, thank you for watching the videos. I appreciate that. C. Vignus Lenhart. Boy, that's a hard name for me to pronounce. Colleen from Minnesota. There we go, Colleen. If I can remember it's Colleen, that's a lot easier to pronounce. Greetings to you too. Luke, yeah, we saw you. Hello to you too. Syed says, my quails have reduced their protein. Do you know anything that could help them reproduce again? My quails have reduced their production. Can't read tonight for some reason. Okay, they've reduced their production. Do you know anything that can help them reproduce again? Syed, I'm not sure if you're asking about reproduce like have babies or reproduce like produce eggs. I think that's kind of what you mean, is they've reduced their egg production. They're not laying as many eggs. You're wondering how to get them to lay more eggs. Actually, I just shot a video, just posted it up, I think, this last Monday that just passed, Yeah, the biggest thing with egg production is going to be light. They need about 14 hours a day of light in order to consistently lay eggs. That's the most common thing that's going to happen. So if you don't have like an external light source, if you're just relying on the daytime sun, here anyway, the days are starting to get shorter. It hasn't really affected my quail yet, but it will pretty quick. And I have to add some external lights to get them up to 14 hours a day, and that gets them laying on a consistent basis. Now, there could be other things. If it's a temporary reduction from like some kind of stress factor, if you just moved them, if they have like a predator that's coming around and pestering them, those can cause them to quit laying, but it'll just be temporary, just a week or two usually, and then they'll start right back up. So there's nothing you can do there. Just leave them alone and let them be. Hopefully that answers that question for you. Rainier says, do quails survive in the wild? Okay, it depends on what kind of quail you're talking about. Bob whites do live in the wild. Their numbers used to be pretty big around here when I was a kid. They've dropped off pretty significantly, so there's not that many Bob white in the wild anymore, around here anyway. They're starting to come back a little bit, but Coturnix, no, they won't generally live in the wild. They're domesticated. They've been domesticated for a very long time. They just don't have the capabilities to escape predators. Especially, just anywhere you live, they're probably going to get eaten pretty quick if you let them out and just let them roam. So hopefully that answers that question. All right, Kervin says both mothers are doing well, as are the kits. I also sold my first rabbit today as well. Well, congratulations on selling your rabbit. Hopefully you made enough off of it to pay for some of the feed costs. All right, where are we at here? Wesley, what is the best way to introduce more quail to an existing cage, and how should they be to introduce? Oh, how old should they be to introduce them? Good question. Okay, two questions actually. If you're trying to mix birds together, it can become a problem quite often because you've got the established flock. When you bring new birds into it, they'll tend to get pretty aggressive with those birds. They can peck their eyes out. They can cause them to go blind. They can do quite a bit of damage. Just beat them up pretty bad, and even kill them sometimes. Although it's fairly rare that they actually kill them, it does happen from time to time. So you need to be careful when you're introducing birds together. If they're the same age birds and they've hit sexual maturity, the females are laying eggs, the roosters are crowing, that's when you're going to have most of your problems. So the best way to do that is to kind of mix your birds up. So take maybe half of, like, let's say you have a flock of 6 birds, take 3 of them, put them in a new cage with 3 of your new birds, put 3 of your new birds in with the other 3 that are already in the cage. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. Split them up so where they're all kind of introduced to each other. Give them time to get used to each other, and then mix the birds together. And hopefully that will take care of that. You're still gonna have to watch though, because they may, a lot of times there'll be some initial aggression, and then they'll just kind of work that out. And there's not much you can do, not much you need to do. They'll usually work it out just fine. But occasionally you'll have one that's a bully and will do, like I said, some pretty significant damage to one of the other birds. Okay, now what I find works best, for me anyway, if I want to mix new birds in with existing birds, I try to do it before the new birds have hit sexual maturity. So at 4 to 5 weeks old, somewhere right around in there, at 4 to 5 weeks, they're big enough that they're not going to get just trampled over and killed by the adult birds when they're running around. But yet they're not sexually mature, so they don't pose a threat to the existing birds, and they seem to just let them right in. No real problems with aggression towards them or anything. So that's the way that I've done it. Hopefully that answers both of those questions for you, and put your mind at ease. All right, where are we at here? Take a sip while I catch up to the comments. All right, question about rabbit feed. Oh, Hidden Bunnies is here. Hello. All right, so, oh, and Jesse Jackson says, good evening to you too. Okay, Mark, question about rabbit feed. Can I feed them 90% grass clippings? It kind of depends on what your grass clippings are. I can't, right off the top of my head, I can't think of exactly what you would not want to include in your grass clippings, but there are some things, nightshade family, so you don't want to, not that you'd be doing it anyway, but you don't want to mow up your tomato plants, for example, and then feed that to your rabbits. That's toxic for them. You can look online pretty easily, find toxic, foods that are toxic to rabbits, or look for grasses maybe that are toxic to rabbits, and you should be able to find something pretty quick. But yeah, more than likely, yes, you can feed them probably like 90% grass. There's a great book out there called Beyond the Pellet that talks about feeding rabbits naturally without pellets. You can grow a ton of stuff for them. I would suggest that as a resource if you're looking at doing that, because I don't do that. That's not my area of expertise. I feed commercial rabbit pellets just because it's so much easier. It's so much more convenient. But yes, you can feed them grass clippings. So just, again, you might want to check through, make sure you know what kind of grass you have, what you're feeding them. I have a couple of vines that like to grow in my yard that are probably not good for rabbits. I don't know that for sure. I'd have to identify them and look them up, but I've got a pretty good feeling that they're not good for rabbits. And if I mowed my yard, there's a guarantee that some of those would be in those grass clippings. So, you know, it is something to kind of watch out for. Hopefully that clears that up for you. All right, where are we at here? Antonio says, what are the best pellets for rabbits? Because I recently have a couple of rabbits and I'm feeding them alfalfa pellets. That's generally all you're going to be able to find is alfalfa pellets. Almost all rabbit pellets are alfalfa based. It's fine. It's nothing to worry about. I tend to feed, I feed free choice hay, as much hay as they'll eat, and just as many pellets as they'll clean out within 24 hours. It's alfalfa-based pellets, but I use a Timothy hay. You could use an alfalfa hay as well. It's not that big of a deal. There are some concerns with too much alfalfa. I think it's pretty high in calcium, if I remember right, and there's concerns with them getting too much calcium from that. But I've done it before. It's never been a problem for me. So hopefully that answers that question. All right. Excuse me. All right. So Malik says, how did quails hatch without incubators hundreds of years ago? Well, I imagine they did have incubators, but good question, Malik. You know, birds can get broody and hatch their own. And that's, you know, Coturnix quail don't usually do that, but they do that from time to time. So I'm sure some of that went along years ago before incubators. But I'm sure that they figured out some ways to incubate eggs. They may not have gotten as good at hatch rates as what we get today, but I'm sure they figured out ways to incubate eggs, you know, years ago without electricity. I don't know what those are right offhand, but I'm sure that they did it. I've successfully incubated corn snake eggs and got them to hatch just by putting them in the upper shelf of my closet in my bedroom, closing the door. It stayed a little bit warmer in there, and they incubated just fine, hatched out just fine. So there's lots of ways you can do it. All right. Kelly Draxstrom says, checking in from South Carolina. Oh, Charlotte, North Carolina. Good grief, I got to slow down and read. Good evening, Chris. Good evening, fellow home-raised food friends. Sorry to be late. Just got the notification of the video. Well, Kelly, you're not that late. What are we at? About 10 after right now? 12 after? So you're not that late at all. We appreciate you joining. Thank you for being here. Tom Wolf says, hey, Chris, how's the summer been? Well, the summer's been incredibly busy. Haven't gotten nearly as much fishing in as I wanted. I've been traveling a lot for work. My wife had surgery, you know, about a month ago. She just got over that, just got released basically from the doctor for that. So it's not been bad. It's just been busy, and I'm not ready for it to end. Everybody's saying, bring on fall. We want fall. We want the cool weather. And I'm saying, no, let's keep summer on a little bit longer. I want to get some more fishing in. I want to spend some more time outside. But it's not been bad. Hopefully your summer's been good too. All right, Hidden Bunny says, so Chris, I have a question about rabbits. Is it natural for my rabbits to only eat vegetables or pellets or hay? It's not unnatural. All rabbits are different. Some of them prefer the pellets. Some of them prefer the hay. My buck, he doesn't hardly eat hay. He eats a little bit of it every day, but not much. It'll last days. But the two babies from the doe that I have, that's all they want to eat is hay. They clear their hay feeders out before they ever touch their pellets. So it's, you know, every rabbit's a little bit different. As long as they've got a choice and they can get whatever they want, they're going to be just fine. It's nothing to worry about. Hey, Boris, how are you? Malik says, I have 5 quails in total. I have 2 in a cage and one only, but they do get scared sometimes. How do I stop them from being scared? Well, I don't know that you do. I mean, they are a prey species in the wild. Naturally, they're going to be jumpy. They're going to be kind of scared. You can tame them up. I've seen plenty of people that have had really tame birds. It just requires a lot of interaction with the bird. Bring them treats, find something that they really like, bring that to them, spend a lot of time with them. Don't make sudden movements, move real slow until they get used to, until they get comfortable with you. It can be done. It's just a big time investment. So that's really the only thing you can do. There's not really a shortcut to it. All right. Rainier says, I have a terrible hatch rate. What do I do? Go back and watch my series on improving your hatch rates. It's a whole playlist. It's on my homepage, and it walks you through every step of it. Too much for me to cover in this video, but I'll just the kind of the Cliff Notes version of it. 2 most important things, temperature and humidity. Keep your temperature constant, 100 degrees, 99.5, right about there if you have a forced air kit. And don't get your humidity too high prior to lockdown. You don't want it up in the 90% range the whole time. It's really probably best to have it down about 60%. I've been experimenting with dry hatching, and it's working great for me. I don't add any water until lockdown, and then at lockdown I just add just a little bit. I've got 5 trays in the bottom of my incubator. I fill up 2 of them. That's it. And that bumps the humidity up to about 70% for the actual hatch after lockdown. Works great. So those are the 2 most important things, but there are some other things you can do. Go back and watch that series. I go through everything. So hopefully that will help you out. All right, where are we at here? 5 Tons and Guns. Welcome, Chris, or hello, Chris. There we go. I'm saying welcome to you. Says, hello, Chris. Our quail and chickens are doing great. We just wanted to say hello. We always enjoy your show. Well, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. And blessings to you and your family as well. All right, Aislinn, I guess. I don't know. Can I give quail soot blocks feed as a treat in addition to their regular feed? I don't know, honestly. I would think so. I would think that would be fine. I wouldn't go overboard with that, though. That's a good question. I'll have to research that a little bit. I've never considered getting them soot blocks, but just thinking about what their diet is and what soot is, I can't see why you couldn't give it to them as a treat. That may be I don't know. It's a great idea. Sorry, I can't answer that one. You stumped me. Kawartha Jeep Guy. Kawartha. There we go. Kawartha Jeep Guy. Hello from Ontario, Canada. Could I keep my quail with my chickens? Probably not a great idea. I did a video on that a while back too. But what you worry about is disease. There are certain diseases, more so with your quail than your chicken, but there are certain diseases that chicken can be carriers of. They can pass on to quail that can be fatal for your quail. And it's pretty common to get those things. So it's really best to kind of separate them out a little bit. You don't have to go crazy. They don't have to have like 100 yards of separation or anything like that, but you probably don't want to let them just roam together. And not only that, but if you did let the chickens roam with the quail, there's a good chance your chickens will eat your quail. So probably not a good idea to keep them together. EC4 Rabbitry says hello. Hello to you. Actually said hi, but Malik says, I do not have an incubator, but want to hatch my eggs, but my hen is not getting broody. So what shall I do? And I'm not really looking to buy an incubator. I'm not sure I can help you. Really, to get good hatch rates with quail, you need an incubator. You have to incubate. There are people that have broody hens, and they will hatch out some birds, but you're not going to get high production out of doing that, even if your bird does go broody. They're going to hatch out like 10 maybe. Maybe. 10's probably pushing it a little bit. But if you incubate in an incubator, you can do 70, 80, 90, 100, 120 at a time. Not that you're going to get all those to hatch, but you're still going to get much more than just 10. So I really don't know if I can help you. There's not really any trick to making a quail go broody. I would say the best thing you can do is give her a little box of some kind with maybe some straw and those kinds of things in it, and try putting some eggs in there. Maybe eventually she'll go to that and start sitting on them. But you just don't know. There's no real trick to making them go broody. Sorry, I wish I had a better answer for you. EC4 Rabbitry says, I'm finally able to get quail to add to my rabbits. Love your videos. They're so informational. Well, thank you so much for the kind comments, and congratulations on your new birds. I'm glad to hear it. All right. Coco. I'm just going to call you Coco. It says, hi, guys. How everyone doing? And the rabbits and the birds. Everybody's doing great. Hope you are, too. Akinola. I don't know if I got your name right. If I pronounced it wrong, I'm so sorry. Akinola says, my doe just delivered 9 babies, but 2 of them are really skinny. What can I do? And also, is watermelon good for rabbits? Watermelon's fine to feed rabbits in small amounts. You don't really want to give them lots of it because it's super high in sugar. As far as what to do with the skinny babies, aside from hand feeding them, which is incredibly hard to do, there's probably not much you can do. It may be an indicator that the female is either not a good mother, maybe she's very, very young and she's just not developed enough to be able to handle all of them. 9 babies is a pretty large litter. It's not uncommon to lose 1 or even 2 from a litter that big. Don't panic. It's not that big of a deal. It's sad. You don't want to lose them. I get all that. But at the same time, it's just kind of nature. It's just the way it goes. Rabbits can only handle so many babies. 9's not out of the limitation. They can handle 10, 11, 12 sometimes, but when you have big litters close to 10 rabbits, it's really common to lose 1 or 2 of them. She just can't produce enough to feed all of them. That's really what it comes down to. Stay away from feeding them things like mint. Mint's the big one. There's a couple others, but mint's the big one that comes to mind because that can slow down. Dandelion, that's the other one. Dandelion, I think, can slow down their milk production, can actually cause them to dry up. So stay away from feeding her things like that. Other than that, you may just have to wait and see and hope they make it. I've had some that do just fine, and I've had some that just kind of waste away. And there's not a whole lot you can do aside from buying some formula. You would look for like probably a kitten formula, and then hand feeding them. But again, that's really hard to do. So good luck with it. I hope that helps. All right. Cyrus says, good evening from Minnesota. Do you know if you can keep Coturnix quail and bobwhite quail and or pheasants? The pen is fairly large. You should be able to keep Coturnix and bobwhite together. They're pretty much the same size. I would think they'd be okay with pheasants, but I'm not sure. Pheasants are considerably bigger than quail. So I really don't know. I haven't tried it. I can't say. But yeah, you should be able to keep bobwhite and Coturnix close together, or in the same pen. They should do fine, I would think. All right. Excuse me. Colleen Parrish says, have you thought about doing a video on the different kinds of nest boxes, pros and cons? Well, no, I hadn't considered that, Colleen, because I don't use nest boxes, really. I mean, I collect eggs and I incubate them. My birds don't go broody, so there's no need for a nest box necessarily. I use sand boxes, and the great thing about having a sand box is they'll lay almost all their eggs in the sand, and they're incredibly clean. They don't have like pieces of feces, stuck to them and nasty, and they're just clean as can be. It's really nice. But as far as nest boxes, I don't really use them, so I don't know that I'd be the best one to have to give a review of those. All right, Coco says, I hope no rabbits and birds are died from the heat. No, so far none. Well, I did have one bird die. This has been a couple of weeks ago. Don't know why. She was fine, and the next day she wasn't. I don't know why. They're going on 2 years old, so it could be anything. You just never know. But I don't think it was heat related. She didn't act like she was in heat stress at all. And usually you see that pretty. I mean, you know what heat stress looks like. And I haven't seen that in any of my birds or my rabbits. It's been hot here. But hey, praise God, we have some rain. I don't know if you guys can hear a little bit of thunder and lightning going on outside. It's not right on the house. It's a little bit far away, so you may not be able to hear it. But right now, we are in severe drought. We've been that way all summer long. We are almost 10 inches under our average rainfall for the year. This month, we actually went over what our average is, but it's all been in like the last 2 days. So it's just been raining for the last 2 days pretty much off and on. And we got another storm coming in tonight. Going to rain again on Saturday evening and Sunday probably, and probably even Monday. So we're going to get above our monthly average, but we're still way behind what we are for the year. It's been dry, dry, dry. So anyway, I don't know why I told you guys all that, but just so you know, I guess. Colleen says, I use built-in drop wire nest box and never had a problem. Good point. I use wire nest boxes as well. They're not built in. I put them in the cage, but yeah, I've never had a problem with them either. Of course, I don't breed in the heat of summer. I do it in the wintertime, in the fall, and in the spring. All right, Kervin. I have a buck who previously in successful breedings. Okay. I have a buck who previously had successful breedings. There we go. I haven't bred him in about 2 months. He's not overweight. When I put the doe in, he cuddles. What to do? Interesting. Are you sure he's not overweight? That's almost always the big issue. The other thing may be if he's too old, but I doubt, maybe he may be too old. Too old would be like 6 years old, 5 years old, somewhere right around in there. Actually, probably closer to about 4 to 5. If he's over 4 or 5 years old, that's kind of what I would expect. What else? You might try adding some light if they're in a really dark place, like in the shade, and it's really dark and shadowy. You might add a little bit of light. Sometimes getting the light up to about 12 to 14 hours a day can help kind of put them in the mood. It's rare that you see a buck that's not interested at all, though. So I would think that there's something else going on. I'm not sure what it is. You might pick him up and check his genitalia and make sure that they don't look swollen, don't look like there's some kind of problem. Does he have some kind of illness or disease or something like that? I don't know what else to tell you on that one. That's a weird situation. Hopefully you figure it out. Hopefully he picks up the game and gets more interested. All right. Two Girls and an Acre Homestead. That's a great name. It's just hard to read. Says, I love the dry hatching. Uh-oh, lost the comment. Let me scroll up. Okay. I love the dry hatching. I think it's so nice and easy. It is, and I'm going to experiment with that in the winter. That's my concern. In the summertime, we have pretty high humidity here anyway. It's not uncommon for it to be 60, 70%. So I think it works fine in the summer. That's not really a big surprise to me. I am a little concerned about wintertime when the humidity is like 20%. You know, it's so dry. That I may have to add some water. We'll see how that works. But I'll be trying it out. We'll see. All right. Exotic Keeper says, only 15 minutes late. Yeah, you're not too late. Glad to have you. Antonio says, I love your videos. Can I get a shout out? Well, there it is, Antonio Garcia. Shout out to you. Thanks for the kind comments. I appreciate that. Hidden Bunny says, I just moved my quails to the old but improved cage, and somehow my female quails are still laying like crazy. I was hoping for them to stop for just a bit, but no. Is there a quail that lays the least? I don't know about a quail that lays the least, but if you want them to stop laying, and chances are they will stop laying. If you just moved them, they've already got eggs stored up inside them, already got eggs that are being produced. So they'll lay those eggs usually a day, 2 days, and then they stop, and they'll stop for like a week or two. So chances are they will. If you want them to quit laying eggs, reduce the amount of light. That's the way to do it. If you take away get them down below about 10 hours a day of light, you may have to go out and actually like put a cover over the cage or something like that to block the light out. But if you can get them down below that, they'll stop laying. So that's the only way to do it, as far as I know. And as far as a quail that lays the least amount of eggs, I don't think bob whites are that prolific. They lay some eggs, but nowhere near as many. But no, not a specific breed of Coturnix, no. All right, Chris Arnold says, someone told me that when I go to incubate my eggs, I need to keep the incubator in a closet or basement for better hatch rate. Is that true? Well, it's not necessarily true that you have to, but it could help. And let me explain why. Let me get a drink first. Okay, keeping the incubator in a closet or, what did you say, a closet or a basement? Maybe a basement. Chances are they're thinking, well, they may not be knowing why they're thinking this, but it's because of humidity. It's a lot easier to stabilize humidity and temperature, for that matter, in a small space than it is in a great big space. So if I have them like in a room here where the sun comes through the window during the day and it heats the room up, and then at night the sun goes down, the air conditioner's blowing, the temperature fluctuation in this room is big. So you're going to see your incubator struggle to keep up with that a little bit more than it would if it was, say, in a closet where there were no drafts or anything like that. A basement, where it makes sense to me, is that those tend to be kind of on the damp side, so they tend to be a little bit more humid. Your incubator's not going to dry out. Your eggs aren't going to dry out. Those would be my guess as to why it would work with that. But again, it really depends on your conditions. It doesn't mean you need to put it in there, but it might help if you're having problems with those things. That's the only reason that those two things would help. Hopefully that logic kind of makes sense. All right, where are we at here? Malik says, uh-oh, I lost your comment too. All right, guys, I got comments going pretty quick here. I'm having a hard time keeping up. If I miss your comment, then ask it again. I'll do my best to get it answered. All right, Kayla says, Bob White, in my experience, are more aggressive than Coturnix. Interesting. That wouldn't be a good thing because, you know, Coturnix can get pretty aggressive. Now, I do find that, you know, my standard brown, my jumbo brown pharaohs, they're the calmest of all my birds. Very little aggression problems with them. But like even my Schofield Silver, any of the tuxedos I've tried, any of the whitebirds especially, whether they're, you know, Texas A&M or English whites or whatever, any of those tend to be super aggressive just for no reason. Like it's not uncommon when I move birds in with my standard browns that they'll pick on them until they get kind of in the flock. But it's pretty, I mean, it's rare for them to start picking on each other after they've been together for like, I'll hatch them out together, grow them up together, put them in the cage together. They don't really pick on each other too much. But the whites, the silvers, the tuxedos, all those birds, it's not uncommon for them to just suddenly turn on their cage mates that they've been with their entire life and just peck an eye out or something. So, yeah, I do find that there is difference in different birds. I'm actually considering, I may or may not do it, I don't know, getting rid of all my silvers and just going with nothing but jumbo brown pharaohs. They're just so much easier in a lot of ways, but I don't know if I'll do that. We'll see. Hidden Bunny says, I'm in Panama, so no chance I'm buying from you. I'm not sure who we're talking about. Oh. EC4 Rabbitry says that you have rabbits for sale. Asks where they're located, and Coco's in Texas, I guess. I need some rabbits too. I don't know where you're located, EC4 Rabbitry, but I might be interested if you're close enough to Southwest Missouri. All right. Chris Silver says, hey, Chris, I have some quail chicks about a week old, going to grow out pen next Sunday. Will my air compressor kicking on and off stress them out when they start laying eggs? Probably not. I mean, it may initially, but chances are if you're putting them out now and your compressor kicking on and off, they're going to get used to that. It's not probably going to be that big of a deal. I run the mower right by their cages. They get sometimes a little bit freaked out when I'm riding by on the mower, but usually they just kind of ignore it. It's not that big a deal to them. I would think it would be, but apparently it's not. All right. Malik says, I had 1 quail and bought 4 more and put 1 hen with my male. I had 1 quail, bought 4 more, and put 1 hen with my male. Okay. You had 1 quail, you bought 4 more, you put 1 hen with the male. I'm not sure. Sorry, just trying to process that to think that through. So you've got 4 quail, you've got 3 of them together that came together. You take the 1 hen, you put her with the male. So they're new to each other. That's probably a good way to do that. Watch the female though. There's a good chance she's going to get overbred, being just 1 female with the 1 hen or with the 1 rooster. And what he's going to do is going to pull all the feathers out of the back of her head. So if you start seeing that, you may need to mix them up a little bit, put him in, get more birds basically, so he doesn't just put all his energy into that 1 poor bird. All right. I will look that up, EC4 Rabbitry. I'll see. Let me do that real quick. Stick it in a page so I don't forget. All right, where are we at here? All right. Where are we at here? Malik says, okay, the male I had before and the 2 other quails haven't had any eggs in their cage, whereas the one which is new has just suddenly stopped laying. Has. Okay, so you bought the new bird, she suddenly stopped laying, probably because you moved her. That's common, they're gonna stop laying. If you've got the male you had before and the 2 other quails, okay, I'm assuming the 2 other quails are hens, but they didn't lay any eggs. Again, it goes back most of the time to light. So if you can get them up to 14 hours a day of light, that's generally the problem why they're not laying. And now if you've only had them for like 2 or 3 weeks, just give them time. They'll start laying probably. But if you've had them for an extended period of time and they're not laying, then it's generally a light issue. That's the most common thing. All right. Is it Ismail Hussein? I'm not sure if I got that right or not. Says, hi, Chris. Thanks for all your videos. Really helpful. I have 20 quail, but have some problems. I separate all male, but still fighting. Some of them are injured. What should I do now? Okay. First of all, don't panic. Quail are incredibly resilient. They bounce back from all kinds of injuries. If you just leave them be, they're usually going to be just fine. But generally, if that happens, if you've got all your males together in 1 cage, they can get a little bit aggressive. Especially if they're in a breeding mode, they're just crowing away and they're competing with each other to try to get the female's attention, and there's no females around, so they're going to get a little bit kind of antsy, try to knock out the competition, so to speak, if that makes sense. So you might try mixing some females in, or mixing some of your roosters in with your females. The other option would be to look and watch your birds, see if you can pick out the one that's being aggressive. If you can nail it down to 1 or 2 birds, then I don't know how you feel about eating them for dinner, but that's what I would do. Eat them for dinner, remove them from the flock. I call pretty hard for aggression because I believe it is a genetic trait, and it's good to just get that out, not pass those genes on and not have to deal with that again. That's just my opinion on it. All right, Kermit says, I bought him in February this year. The previous owner said he was 9 months at the time. I haven't seen abnormalities in his genitalia. Okay, I will try the light though. Thanks for your assistance. Well, I hope that works, Kermit. I've never had an issue like that. Male are almost always just ready to go. 9 months old isn't that old. If you bought it in February, that just puts him like a little over a year. That's not that old at all. Hopefully that works. I'm not sure what else to tell you, unfortunately. All right. Rainier says, do quails migrate? Some quail, I'm sure do, but no, not. That would be, you know, like wild birds around here. We have bobwhite quail. They don't typically migrate. They might move a little bit, but not. It's not big areas. They're not a migratory bird, as far as I know. I don't know. I'm gonna have to look that up and find out. I may just told you something that's a lie, but I'm thinking it through. There were quail in the summer. They're quail in the winter. They're quail. I mean, they don't leave for the winter. So no, I don't believe they're migratories. EC4 is in the Dallas area. I think we've had this conversation before, EC4. It's not too far from me, but 6 hours is a little bit far for me to drive for a rabbit. We'll see, though. Who knows? Looks like Coco can help. Oh, she's in Texas, too, I believe, right? So you guys may be close enough. She may be able to get some rabbits from you. All right. And Jimmy's from Austin. Look at that. A bunch of Texas people in here. All right. Isam, I'm not sure if I got your name right or not again. One more question. In the winter in the UK, do we need any heating system in outside? No, it depends on what you want to do. I don't use a heating system on my birds at all. I think we're still talking about birds, aren't we? I think we are. But either way, it doesn't matter. I don't use any heating systems outside whatsoever. The birds do just fine. The rabbits do just fine. The only problem with the wintertime really is just water. Water freezes, so I got to take water out every day and refill little bowls of water. I got to switch over to bowls that are kind of open bowls instead of the water cups in the automatic watering system. So it's a little bit of a pain from that standpoint. But other than that, the birds do just fine. It doesn't seem to bother them at all. The rabbits do just fine. Doesn't seem to bother them at all. So if you don't, and now the other thing is eggs freeze in the wintertime when it's below freezing. I don't know how cold it gets where you're at, but here, and I'm sorry I don't know the metric system. I guess it's still metric with Celsius, but anyway, I know Fahrenheit, and it gets down to pretty regularly in the low 20s or teens for extended periods of time here, and it's not uncommon for it to get down below 0. We're down to 0 anyway for short periods of time. Never had a problem with any of my animals. Hopefully that answers that for you. All right, Hidden Bunny says, my quail lives in a 5-yard flat ground cage with no roof. I clipped the wings, and I can't control the light. Is there any way to calm down the egg laying? No, probably not. I mean, that's the great thing about Coternics. They continue to lay eggs, but I'm not sure. I mean, it's not really that big of a problem, is it? If you have a dog, feed your extra eggs to your dog. They'll love them. It's good for them. They'll love them. Give them to your neighbors. You know, your neighbors will be happy with it, and they'll be less likely to complain about your quail. You know, find a potluck and bring about 30 deviled quail eggs to the potluck, and everybody's going to think you're just awesome. Deviled quail eggs have got to be one of the best things. I mean, they're just so fantastic. It's a little bit of work putting them together, but they are good. All right, Malik says, just wanted to say thank you for answering my question. I love watching your videos. They're very interesting and very good way to spend time. Much love from Birmingham, United Kingdom. Well, thank you so much, Malik. I appreciate that. And thank you for watching the videos. Wesley says, in a still air incubator, my baby quail won't dry off, and I had 3 die on me. Is there something I can do to dry them off without them dying on me? Probably, hang on. I'm awful dry today, so I gotta take a drink every once in a while. That's probably, I had some problems like that too, and I think it came back to just too much water in the incubator. My humidity was way up there, like 85%. So I would say lower the amount of water you're putting in your incubator to lower the humidity a little bit. At least in the summertime, at least when your humidity is high outside, if you have seasons like we do where it's dry in the winter and humid in the summer, in the summertime you just don't need to add as much water. And remember, humidity is by surface area, not volume, not depth. So you've got trays in your incubator. Don't just fill them part of the way up, all of them part of the way up because your humidity is too high. Don't fill a couple of them up because it's the surface area of the water that causes the humidity to increase. Hopefully that makes sense. That's the best thing that you can do, really. All right. Hidden Bunny says 41 views and 9 likes. Well, hey, that's pretty good, I think. I'm happy with that. Robin Real True says, love your channel, Chris. Great information. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Chris Rabler, I think I got that right, says, answer to the person that doesn't want to buy an incubator. I made one using a small styrofoam cooler and a light bulb. Directions found by Googling. It worked well for quail. You know, that's a good point. I didn't think about it from that standpoint. You can build your own incubator. We had one when I was a kid that my grandpa built. It was just a wooden box with a glass front, had a light bulb on a dial, like a dimmer switch, so you could turn up and turn it down to control the amount of heat. And we hatched out chicken eggs. You could do the same thing. Honestly, though, if you can just get the about $150, get that together and invest in a decent, Little Giant, Hovabator, or whatever, styrofoam incubator, you're probably going to have better luck. But there's no reason you can't do it that way. If you want to, go for it. You get good experience incubating. You understand it a little bit better. You really put something into it, so your reward's a little bit higher in a sense. Try it out and see. All right. Antonio Garcia says, how do you get your rabbits to mate in a colony? You shouldn't have to get them to mate in a colony. They should just do it. Rabbits, that's pretty much, you put them together, they're going to breed. That's pretty much what happens. I don't like colonies myself. I'm not saying you shouldn't do one. Each their own. It's no big. What I don't like about them is that simple fact you don't control the breeding. It just happens whenever. I like to be able to control my breeding a little bit more, have a little bit more planned out, know what to expect. So that's kind of why I choose to keep my rabbits in separate cages. But yeah, you shouldn't have to do anything. They should just go ahead and breed on their own because they're rabbits. All right. All right, Hidden Buddy says, you want to know what's weird? I speak British, but my mom and dad don't. I don't know that that's weird, but it's not actually British, is it? It's English, right? But that's okay. I don't think that's weird. I think it's pretty common for people to speak one language, their parents not to speak it. They didn't learn to speak it, just different things. It's good that you are, I assume you're bilingual, Hidden Bunnies, is that right? So you speak English and Spanish, is that right? I'm not sure. Wish I was bilingual, but I'm not. So maybe someday. Okay. I'm not even going to say it this time. He said, okay, I'll say it because I have to. Isam, I think, says, thanks, it's okay about my name, don't worry. Well, thank you for giving me for that because I'm notoriously bad at mispronouncing people's names, not getting it right. I always feel bad for it. I make an effort. I just can't help it. All right. Malik, I'm probably pronouncing your name wrong too, says, thanks a lot, Chris. Oh, Chris Rabb, we're talking to Chris. I'll try if I can get a hold of some styrofoam. Good. Hidden Bunny says, I call my deviled quail eggs angel quail eggs. Hey, that's a great idea. Call them by a different name. It's always great to bring deviled eggs, like deviled quail eggs, to a party, a potluck, whatever, especially if somebody doesn't know you raise quail because they see them and they're just like, how did you get such tiny eggs? You explain that they're quail eggs, and then they say, well, where do you get quail eggs? And you can always say, they come out of a quail butt. It's just, I don't know why. The looks you get, it always makes me laugh. I know I'm kind of childish, but it's funny to me. All right. You can call me Hossein. Hopefully I got that right. I'm still learning from your videos. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Hopefully I got that name right. All right, Malik says, what animals do you think are worth the investment? Oh boy, it depends on what worth is such a subjective thing. It really just depends. For me, my dog is worth the investment because he's such a good dog. I don't know where he is. He's around here somewhere. Such a good dog. He's a good companion, but I'm not going to eat my dog, of course. So he doesn't return anything to me in that sense, but he's still worth the investment to me. As far as livestock animals, it depends a lot of things. How big of an area do you have? If I had a bigger area, I think chickens could be a good investment because you can use them to turn compost for you, to weed your garden for you, you can do lots of things with chickens and put them to work for you and also get egg production out of them. So that's worth it. In town, I think rabbits and quail are probably the best investment. They're small, you can keep them compact, not bother anybody about them. Nobody even knows unless you let them know. And they produce a lot of eggs and a lot of meat from the rabbits and meat from the quail too. So it's just, there's a lot of benefits to all those. Again, it just depends on what you consider worth it, I guess. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. Coco the hamster says, back amigos. Well, welcome back. Or in Spanish, wouldn't that be bienvenidos? Bienvenidos? I don't know where to go from there, but I think that's welcome. All right, Stanky Fingers, that's a horrible name. Hi, my name is Liam. That's a better name. You should have gone with that for YouTube. And I'm 5 years old, huh? I have a baby quail, and I check on them every night. And I always watch your videos with my dad. Well, thank you so much. I'm glad you do. You should change your name to Liam. That's a great name. Change your username on YouTube to Liam. Thank you for watching my videos. I appreciate it. All right. Rainier says, how many quails do I need for meat runs? It depends on how many quail you want to eat. I mean, work backwards. When you incubate eggs, how many quail do you want to incubate out to have in the freezer? So, I like to do like 40, 50 at a time, something like that. So you're going to need, figure you're not going to get 100% hatch rate. You're probably going to get at best 80% hatch rate, sometimes a little bit more, but most of the time you're going to average out about 80% hatch rate probably. So if you figure, let's figure it a little bit on the low side just to be sure. So let's say a 50% hatch rate. If you want to have 40 birds that you can butcher, send to the freezer, have for meat, that's going to be probably about, what does that come out to? 20 meals, roughly 20 meals. Then you need to have, you can store the eggs. I'm having a hard time doing this in my head, but you get the idea. You can store the eggs for about 6 days probably before you need to incubate them. So you need to come up with, let's see, we said 40 birds. That'd be about 80 eggs. You need to come up with 80 eggs over about 6 days. So what's that come out to? About 8 birds. 8 birds would be over 5 days would be 40 eggs, and would be like 48 eggs over. I'm sorry, my math is off. you get the idea. Maybe 10 birds would be closer to that. 10 birds, 50, yeah, 60. 11. So about 11, 12 hens is probably what you would need in order to do the math. I can't do it while I'm sitting here on live and no paper in front of me to write things down. I forget what numbers I'm working on, but I think you kind of get the idea. Somewhere around 12 hens probably is going to be a decent amount of eggs that you can incubate and then get a decent sized meat run off of it. Hopefully that helps. All right. Send Sloth says, I love the reaction people have when they find out about my quail eggs for the first time. Yeah, it's always a little bit funny to me too. People think it's so exotic and so, delicate, and they always ask the same thing. What do they taste like? Well, they taste like an egg. It's not really that any different. All right, where are we at here? Hidden Bunny says, Está bien la berenjena, I don't know that word, para los conejos. Conejos is quail, right? You can Google translate this, LOL. So, is it okay for the quail? I don't know what berenjena, I don't know what that is. Berenjena. I know the rest of the words. Is it okay something for the quails? I don't know what that means. You're going to have to tell me. I don't have time to Google Translate right now. All right. Memphis Kind says, what do you do with your eggs? I have like 30 birds and a bunch of eggs. Well, I eat most of my eggs. Conejos is rabbit. Okay, I got that one wrong. Conejos is rabbit. I told you I'm learning Spanish. I don't know it. All right, so what do I do with all my eggs? You have like 30 birds and a bunch of eggs. Yeah, with 30 birds, you're going to have a ton of eggs. We eat a lot of eggs. I do omelets a lot in the morning. I've got a garden club meeting this weekend. I'm going to be taking eggs to that, probably deviled eggs for that. That'll get rid of a whole bunch of them. I feed some of them to the dog. He gets several eggs, about 1 or 2 a day at least. Sometimes I just have to throw out eggs. About once every 3 or 4 months, I end up just dumping about, a small bowl of eggs, just because I'm just overrun with them. But I find uses for most of them. Give them to my neighbors if they want them. So that works. Eggplant is what that word was, which I've already forgotten again. Eggplant. Is eggplant okay for rabbits? I don't remember. You may have to do a Google search on that. I think it's okay. I think the fruit's okay, but maybe the leaves and the plant aren't. Eggplant's basically a squash, right? It falls into. It should be fine. It should be fine. I would hesitate feeding them the leaves and the plant until I, looked it up and researched a little bit more. But I think it's okay. Anytime you give rabbits something new, though, always give them just a little bit at first and let them see. Hopefully that works. All right. My wife's home from work, so the dog's excited. All right. Hi, sweetheart. Sorry, I had to say hi to my wife real quick. All right. Berenjena. Boy, that's a hard word to say. Is eggplant. Okay, got it. All right. I've lost track of where we at here. Okay, like and sub the channel for more vids from the teacher and teach us all about rabbits and birds clap and cheer. Okay, thank you for that. Wesley says, thanks, Chris, for answering my question. You helped me out a lot since I started raising. God bless you and your family from Georgetown, Kentucky. Thank you so much, Wesley. I'm so glad to hear that my videos have helped you out. God bless you and your family as well. And Sinslaw said, just started incubating eggs. Used your videos as reference. Thanks for all the amazing information. Well, thank you so much for the kind comments. I am so glad to hear that they worked out well for you and that you're into incubating eggs and hopefully having some good success there. All right, John316, that's a great username, says, you talked about raising the heat lamp above the brooder to control temperature. I use an Inkbird outlet thermostat to lower the temperature 1 or 2 degrees per day until they are ready to go into the pen. You know, those, I've got one too, and I actually did a video. I don't know where that is right offhand, or I'd grab it and show you. I actually did a video where I put that together. I showed how to put it together and used it to control the temperature on the brooder box. But what I found was that, and it works fine, there's no reason not to use it. But what I found is it's just more work than I needed. It seemed to like, I mean, it was like the heat lamp would come on, shut off, come on, shut off, come on, shut off. So I ended up pretty much having to adjust it anyway to where it was pretty much, it would stay on longer periods of time and shut off for longer periods of time. So it wasn't just constantly on, off, on, off, on, off. Especially you didn't want to have some epileptic quail or something. But anyway, it worked out okay though. It's a great idea. It was a nice little novelty thing to kind of play with, and it's not bad. It works. Just a little bit of adjustment. I don't even know where it is right now. I just went back to using just the regular heat lamp. It wasn't that big of a deal. Anyway, all right. Lost point is okay for my rabbits. Okay, yeah. You talk about raising it. We've already answered some of these. I'm losing track. Oh, I've just released my quails into the wild. Do I need to catch them again? Yeah, probably so. Bad idea to release any of your animals into the wild. Now, I mean, if you're talking about like native birds in your area you've raised up and then released in the wild, that's one thing. But it's a bad idea in general to take domestic animals, release them into the wild. I don't guess you have to go catch them. But, you know, I mean, just look at Florida. Florida's got a huge problem with pythons and boa constrictors and iguanas. And none of those things are native to Florida. People have just released their pets, or their pets got loose. They didn't always just release them. And they just lived out there. They're just taken over. And it fights out the natural animals. It throws the ecology off. So the natural animals that live there they can't compete with them for food. There's no natural predators to thin them out. So they become just overpopulated. It's not a good idea to release domestic animals into the wild, really. Yeah, I would catch them, bring them back. All right. Baranhana. I know I have a hard time with that H. Baranhana. Hopefully I got that right. All right. Hidden Bunny says, is it a very bad idea to release any? Oh, it is very, okay. That's the same thing I was just saying. How long do you make your live stream? Is it random or is it until 8 o'clock? Usually about 8 o'clock. I go for about an hour, so we got about 7 minutes left here. You know, if the chat's real slow, we might end a minute or two early, but, you know, I can usually make it last till about 8 o'clock. All right. Can you adopt a wild rabbit? Probably not, Coco. Wild rabbits don't do well in captivity. Generally, they die pretty quickly when you bring them in. I would suggest leaving them where they are. They're usually not abandoned. That's what most people think. They find a nest of baby rabbits, think, oh, they were abandoned, let me take them in, take care of them, and you end up just killing them. Not intentionally, but they just don't live usually in captivity. Their mothers only come and feed them once or twice a day. You probably will never see the mother anywhere near the nest. That doesn't mean they're abandoned. They do much better in the wild than they do in captivity. All right. John 3:16 uses a ceramic heat lamp. Yeah, the ceramic heat lamps are a great alternative to heat bulbs. The ceramic heat lamps, I should say. It works the same way. I mean, as far as you adjust the height of the ceramic heater from the bottom of the brooder box to adjust the temperature, but they are safer, not nearly as dangerous as a heat lamp. So it's a good alternative. All right. Bit of a random question. How did you meet your wife? Just curious. And how many quail do you have? 2 different questions. Okay, right now I think I have, let's answer the quail question first. How many quail do I have right now? Probably 40, 80. probably close to 100, but about 45 of them are babies that just came out of the incubator, and they're in the brooder right now. Let me tap the brooder here. See if that one's dead. Nope, he's alive. Quail, especially baby quail, do the stupidest things. I mean, they just drive me nuts. You look in there and you see the bird laying on its side, just looks like it's dead, and as soon as you move, it pops right up and just runs around. It does it to me all the time. So anyway, yeah, I got about 100 birds in here right now, but about 45 or 50 of them are in the brooder box. Okay, how did I meet my wife? We met online. I don't remember exactly where online, but we met online. Talked for quite a while, went out on a date, went out on a second date, and the rest is, as I say, history. We dated for close to 2 years before we got married. All right, I know it's not too terribly exciting story, but it is. You know, it's difficult. We'll talk about that for a minute. It is difficult because I did go through this not too long ago. My wife and I have been married for just a little over a year. We dated for about 2 years, so I was single, you know, in my early 40s. And it's very difficult at that age to meet other, you know, meet people of the opposite sex that are not, that are Christians. And I am a Christian. That's an important thing to me. I'm not judging you guys that aren't Christians, but for somebody I want to marry, that's an important thing to me. And it's very hard to meet other people that are Christians, seriously Christians, and not just, I go to church every once in a while kind of things. And again, I'm not judging anybody, but that's just who I'm looking for in a spouse. So it's hard to meet them in person. I mean, I was a member of a church, an elder of a church actually. We just didn't have a lot of single women that went there. So online is kind of the logical place. And I couldn't be happier. I met a great woman. She is a fantastic wife. Very happily married. All right, that out of the way, let's see. Hidden Bunny says, Chris, I can't explain how my rabbit Dusty Rose looks. Can you look at her on my channel and tell me if she's a rare breed or of rabbit? I may or may not be able to tell you that. I'm not an expert on the different breeds of rabbits. I pretty much know meat rabbits, New Zealand whites, you know, those kinds of things. So I don't know that I can tell you if it is or isn't, but I'll see what I can do. I'll try to remember to go back and watch that, look on your channel and see what I can find. All right, Hidden Bunnies, I think we got that. Coco the Hamster says, what county or state you live, and how old are you? I'm 12 and in Texas. I don't think you're talking to me, are you? And do you have kids? Maybe you're asking me. I live in Southwest Missouri. Joplin is actually the town that I live in. Most of you guys probably don't know where Joplin, Missouri is. It's in the very southwest corner, right next to Oklahoma, Kansas, and Arkansas, kind of right down there in the corner. And I have 2 kids. I have 2 grandkids. I'm 44 years old. So hopefully that answers that. My wife is awesome to let me do YouTube. She is. She's been on a few of my videos. If you go back and look, kind of played around a little bit with trying to figure out how to work that in, and finally just, we didn't stay on top of it. But yeah, she was in some of my videos before we got married, right before we got married. So you guys can go back and look at those videos and see what my wife looks like. She's beautiful. All right, William Thau, I think it is. I just hatched about 80 quails. I noticed the hatch rate improved by me not spraying them with hydrogen peroxide. I've always sprayed my eggs before. Just curious if you have ever had similar outcome. I've never tried hydrogen peroxide. I spray with Listerine, half water, half Listerine, and it has improved my hatch rate. Better than what I was doing without spraying them. But you know, who knows? That could be a number of different things that cause that. You may have other problems that are going on that just suddenly resolve themselves, and you happen to quit spraying them at the same time. It may not be the spraying that, you know, is really affecting your hatch rate that much. I'm not sure how to test that out. I think the best way to do that would be maybe to, you know, divide your incubator somehow, maybe a piece of wire mesh or something, so you can keep eggs separate. Spray some of your eggs, don't spray the others. Incubate them all together. See in the same incubation what your hatch rate is from sprayed versus non-sprayed eggs. I think that would be the only way to really test it out. And you'd probably have to do it over several hatches. But interesting, I don't know. And since Sloth brings up a good point, says hydrogen peroxide eats bacteria, good and bad, but you know, so does Listerine, so does, I mean, anything you're gonna spray on there to kill bacteria is gonna eat good bacteria and bad bacteria. Yeah, I don't know, I haven't had that experience. And if you're doing something wrong, I mean, not that I can tell, but you know, it's hard to say. Let me look back here, let me see. Yeah, I don't know. I can't think of anything else. I mean, most of the time, the two things that affect the hatch more than anything, temperature is probably the biggest one, and humidity is second, and the bacterial issues would be like third on the list of things that affect a hatch rate. And they can be the thing in some hatches, but it's not as common as the other two issues. So, but you know, spraying them down with hydrogen peroxide should take care of the bacterial issues. I don't know, hard for me to say. All right, what time we got here? 8 o'clock. I'm gonna have to wrap this up. A couple of quick comments here that I'll answer real quick, and then I gotta get off here, go spend some time with my wife before, I shouldn't say got to, need for me personally, I need to go spend some time with my wife before the end of the day. Almost the weekend though. All right, so, okay, I've got that. How many rabbits do you have, adults and babies? Well, right now I've just got 2 rabbits, a buck and a doe, and 2 babies from the doe. And they're right at time to butcher. They're 10 weeks old or so. That's it right now. And is a 10 by 20 cage good enough for 9 rabbits? 10 feet by 20 feet? Let me think about that for a minute. It's 200 square feet, 9 rabbits, that's 10. Sounds big enough, but if you're going to keep them all together, if you're going to keep a colony setting, you probably need a bigger space than that actually. And that means keeping all your rabbits together. You need some place for the does to be able to get away from the buck, to hide from him when they don't want to be pestered, to where they're not just kind of all together all the time. And that's a pretty good sized cage. It might work. I'm not sure that I would go with bigger personally. That's just me. Uh-oh, I got Spanish in here too. Para ser honesto, eres muy bueno en Spanish, LOL. Okay. For, I don't know exactly what that says. It's something very good in Spanish. It's very good in Spanish. Para ser honesto. Is that your honesty? Honest? I don't know. I don't know what that says. I have to study more. All right, do you want to kill all the bad bacteria per se? Oh, you don't want to kill all the bad bacteria per se. If anything, you want to even out the imbalance so the good bacteria can keep them in check. That's a good point too, Garrison. All right, guys, I got to wrap this up. I got to get off to spend some time with the wife. Thank you all for joining tonight. Thanks for the interaction in the chat. I appreciate that. Hope everyone has a great night. We will see you next week. And, oh, to be honest, you are really good at Spanish. That's what that said. I was close. I didn't get that. Para, in order to be on. That makes sense. Thank you. All right. Got to go. Good night, guys. God bless each and every one of you. And we will talk to you next week. Take care.